The twin suns of Zithra burned high in the sky, painting the rocky landscape with orange and gold. The city below gleamed with towers of glass and metal, a testament to the alien species' pride and skill. Citizens moved with purpose, their sharp eyes scanning every corner. Strength and intelligence were the measures of respect here, and weakness was noticed immediately. Lyra shuffled along the narrow streets, her small frame hiding beneath the heavy folds of her gray cloak. Her head bowed. She tried not to draw attention. She had learned long ago that standing out meant being noticed, and being noticed meant ridicule. The laughter of her peers still echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of her failure. Today, the city square was alive with excitement, elders and younglings alike gathered for the demonstration of skill. Every citizen, young or old, had a chance to show their abilities, strength, agility, intellect, or creativity. Those who succeeded were celebrated. Those who failed were not so lucky. Lyra approached cautiously, keeping to the shadows. Her legs trembled as she watched the first contestant step forward. There was Kalen, a tall, muscular boy, who lifted heavy stones with ease. The crowd cheered wildly. Then Mira, a girl renowned for her quick mind, solved a puzzle that had stumped even the elders. The applause was deafening. When Lyra's name was called, a hush fell over the square. She stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The task was simple for most: move a large mechanical device across a short distance. It required strength, precision, and timing. Lyra tried. She pushed, she strained, but the device barely moved. Her hands shook, sweat running down her face. She stumbled backward and fell, the device clattering to the ground. The crowd's reaction was immediate: gasps, whispers, and then laughter. Harsh, cruel laughter that cut deeper than any weapon. The elders frowned, their eyes cold and disappointed. One stepped forward, his long robes brushing the ground. "Lyra," he said, his voice echoing through the square, "you have failed once more. Your body is weak, your skill is inadequate. You are deemed worthless." A sharp silence followed. Then the crowd murmured in agreement. Lyra's knees hit the ground, and tears blurred her vision. She had expected criticism, but this public declaration, it was unbearable. The punishment was clear. She was to live outside the city, cast aside until she could prove her worth. Lyra rose slowly, clutching her cloak to her chest. She did not fight. She did not cry aloud. She only walked away, each step heavy, her mind a storm of shame and fear. The city behind her seemed like another world, one she no longer belonged to. She wandered toward the outskirts, where jagged rocks and dusty plains stretched to the horizon. Here, few cared for status or strength, but survival was a daily struggle. Lyra knew this life would be harsh. She would find food, build shelter, and hide from predators. But perhaps she could also discover something the city had never taught her: her own abilities. As she moved, Lyra thought about the moments she had been overlooked, the times she had solved small problems quietly, the ideas she had shared that others dismissed, the plans she had made that no one acknowledged. None of it mattered to the city. None of it counted. But maybe, somewhere, it could. She set up a small camp in a rocky alcove, gathering dry plants and stones to make a basic shelter. The nights were cold, and the wind howled like an angry beast. Lyra wrapped herself in her cloak and listened to the sounds of the wild, her mind still heavy with shame. Yet, beneath the fear, there was a spark of tiny, fragile hope. The following days passed in a blur of survival. Lyra hunted small creatures with clever traps, collected water from hidden springs, and slept beneath the stars. She avoided the city entirely, fearing the ridicule she had left behind. But the solitude allowed her to think, to plan, and to test her own abilities without judgment. One evening, as she rested near a small stream, a strange hum filled the air. Lyra's ears twitched. She had never heard anything like it, a deep, resonating sound that vibrated through the rocks. She looked up to see a bright light descending from the sky, illuminating the plains like another sun. A human starship landed not far from her camp, its sleek, silver surface reflecting the twin suns. Lyra's heart raced. humans were rare visitors, strangers from a distant planet. Most aliens regarded them with curiosity, some with fear. Lyra, however, felt only fascination. Cautiously, she approached as a hatch opened. A tall human with short brown hair and a calm expression stepped out. His eyes scanned the surroundings, and then they met hers for a moment. The world seemed to pause. The human smiled gently. "Hello," he said. His voice was soft but carried confidence. "Are you alone?" Lyra hesitated, unsure whether to speak. She had learned to distrust strangers. But something in his demeanor, something in the way he looked at her without judgment made her nod. "I'm Lyra," she whispered. "I'm Marcus," the human replied. "I didn't expect to find anyone out here." Lyra's gaze fell. "I'm not supposed to be here," she said quietly. I failed." Marcus studied her for a moment. Then he said something that made her blink in surprise. "Failure doesn't make someone worthless." Lyra stared at him, unsure what to say. No one had ever said that to her. In Zithra, failure was shame, weakness was disgrace. Yet here was a human, standing calmly, saying she still had value. Days passed, and Marcus observed Lyra from a distance, careful not to intrude. He noticed her clever traps, her way of finding water, and her quick thinking in solving small problems each time. He smiled quietly, impressed by what she could do. One afternoon, a sudden threat arrived, a predator, large and fast, moving through the rocky plains. Lyra froze for a moment, then remembered the trap she had prepared the day before. She guided the predator carefully, luring it into the trap. It fell, struggling, and Lyra managed to keep it at bay until it escaped far into the wild. Marcus had watched the entire scene. "You're remarkable," he said when he approached her afterward. "You think ahead, you adapt, and you act bravely. You're not worthless." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had never heard such words before. The weight of shame she had carried for years felt lighter, though only slightly. I don't know," she said softly. "I've only ever failed." Marcus knelt to meet her gaze. "Everyone has value. Everyone can contribute. It doesn't matter what others think. What matters is what you do and how you see yourself." For the first time, Lyra considered that maybe she could be more than the city had told her. Maybe she could explore, learn, and grow in ways that mattered. That night, Lyra lay beneath the stars, listening to the twin sunset and the gentle hum of the human ship. Hope, fragile but real, stirred in her heart. Perhaps her life would not be defined by failure or ridicule. Perhaps, with guidance and courage, she could discover her true worth. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra whispered a quiet promise to herself. One day, she would show the world and perhaps even herself what she was truly capable of. The night was calm, but the future shimmered with possibilities, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt seen. The next morning, the sky over Zithra glowed with soft amber light. Lyra sat near her small camp, her hands busy arranging food and water she had gathered. Her mind wandered, replaying the events of yesterday, the harsh words of the elders, the laughter of the crowd, and then the human. Marcus, the human, had stayed near the outskirts of her camp, careful not to frighten her. But his presence was comforting, a strange mixture of curiosity and calmness. Unlike anyone in her city, he did not judge her by her small size, her weakness, or her failures. He had seen something in her, something she had never dared to see in herself. Lyra's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden noise. A pack of small, skittering creatures raced across the rocky plain, causing dust to rise in little clouds. Lyra's instincts kicked in. She grabbed her makeshift staff and crouched low, tracking the creature's movement. Before the human could notice, she had set a simple trap, directing the creatures into a shallow pit she had dug the day before. Marcus watched in quiet amazement. He had expected these plains to be empty and barren, but Lyra moved through the terrain with precision. Her small hands and quick mind had prepared for this moment, even though it seemed simple to her. To Marcus, it was extraordinary. "You're clever," Marcus said softly, stepping closer. "Most adults from your city wouldn't notice those little creatures, let alone catch them without harming them." Lyra looked up, startled. "I do what I can," she said quietly, unsure if she should be proud or embarrassed. Marcus smiled. That's enough, he said. You've already shown more skill and thoughtfulness than many people I've met. Lyra's cheeks flushed. The praise felt strange, almost like a dream. In her city, skill was measured by strength or brilliance in public tasks, and she had failed both. No one had ever recognized the quiet, careful intelligence she had. Over the next few days, Marcus slowly approached Lyra, always respectful, never pushy. He brought small gifts from his ship tools, food, and simple gadgets that fascinated her. More than the objects, it was his patience and understanding that drew her closer. She began to trust him, even if just a little. One afternoon, while exploring the area near her camp, Lyra and Marcus heard a low, threatening growl. A predator, larger and more dangerous than anything Lyra had faced before, emerged from behind a rocky outcrop. Its eyes gleamed, sharp teeth showing as it prowled toward them. Lyra froze for a moment. The predator was fast, stronger than she could hope to fight with her staff. But she remembered the traps she had learned to set for smaller creatures. Quickly, she scanned the area and spotted a narrow canyon with a steep slope. If she could lead the predator there, "Follow me," she shouted to Marcus, surprising even herself. Marcus didn't hesitate. He trusted her instinctively. Together, they ran, Lyra guiding the predator with careful movements and subtle noises. The human followed closely, matching her pace, relying on her knowledge of the terrain. As they reached the canyon, Lyra executed her plan. She darted behind a boulder and clapped her hands loudly, startling the predator. It lunged, slipping on the loose rocks, and tumbled into a narrow crevice where it could not escape. Lyra and Marcus caught their breath, hearts pounding. "You're amazing," Marcus said, his eyes wide with admiration. "I don't know how you did that so quickly." Lyra smiled faintly. I have to survive," she said. "I watch, I plan. I don't always succeed, but I try." Marcus nodded. "That's more than enough. That's what matters." From that day, their bond grew stronger. Lyra began to help Marcus understand Zithra's terrain, its wildlife, and the hidden dangers of the planet. In return, Marcus taught her about the human starship, the technology on board, and the wonders of the universe beyond Zithra. Lyra was fascinated. She had never imagined there could be other worlds, other creatures, or other ways of thinking. Marcus explained navigation, communication, and even simple physics in ways she could understand. Each lesson revealed how much potential she had, how much she could learn if given the chance. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set over the horizon, Marcus asked, "Lyra, have you ever thought about leaving Zithra? Seeing other worlds?" Lyra hesitated. The city and her past failures felt like chains around her heart. I don't know if I could," she admitted. "What if I fail again? What if I'm worthless elsewhere too?" Marcus looked at her, his expression serious but kind. "Lyra, worth is not something that others decide. It's something you create. You have value because of what you do, how you think, and how you care. If you let fear decide, you'll never know what you can achieve." Lyra considered his words. They were unlike anything she had heard. Her elders had always measured her worth with tests and tasks. The humans, Marcus especially, measured worth differently by courage, intelligence, and heart. Over the next few days, Lyra began to experiment. She tried her hand at navigating small drones Marcus had brought from his ship, solving basic problems, and learning about human tools. Every success, no matter how small, boosted her confidence, but it was not all easy. Some days, she struggled. The human technology was strange, and her mind occasionally faltered. Marcus never scolded her. Instead, he guided her gently, showing her where she went wrong and helping her correct it. One afternoon, while examining a rocky canyon, Lyra noticed subtle markings on the rock, signs of small creatures' movement patterns. Using her knowledge of the environment and Marcus's advice, she created a mapping system that could predict where certain creatures would appear. Marcus was astounded. "Lyra, this is incredible. No one else would have thought to do this." Lyra smiled shyly. I just noticed," she said. "I've watched these creatures for a long time. That's exactly why it's important, Marcus said. Observation and patience are often more valuable than raw strength. You've already proven that. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of belonging. Not in her city, where she had been ridiculed and cast aside, but here, with Marcus. Here, her mind and heart were appreciated. Here, she could grow without fear of shame. Days later, as they explored a remote canyon, Lyra stumbled upon a cave. Inside, strange markings adorned the walls, ancient symbols left by creatures long gone. Lyra's curiosity ignited. Using the skills she had developed with Marcus, she began to decipher the patterns. Hours passed as she worked, carefully translating the symbols. When she finished, Marcus peered over her shoulder. "You've done what? That's brilliant, Lyra. These markings have puzzled scholars for centuries." Lyra's cheeks flushed. I just tried," she whispered. Marcus laughed softly. "And that's exactly why you're special. You try, you think, you act. Not everyone has the courage or patience to do that." That evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Lyra sat beside Marcus outside the ship. She looked at him and said quietly, "Do you really think I could be more than what my city says I am?" Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "I don't just think it, Lyra. I know it. You've already shown me your worth. The rest of the universe just hasn't seen it yet." Lyra smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt hope. Perhaps her failures did not define her. Perhaps, with guidance, courage, and determination, she could discover her true potential. That night, as Lyra slept beneath the stars with Marcus's ship quietly humming nearby, she dreamed not of shame or rejection, but of possibilities. She imagined exploring the stars, learning new things, and proving that her worth was not determined by the harsh judgments of others. And somewhere deep inside, a tiny flame of confidence burned. It was fragile, but it was real. And for the first time, Lyra believed that she might be able to shine not just in the eyes of humans, but in her own eyes as well. The days on Zithra blended into a rhythm of learning and exploration. Lyra had grown accustomed to the human starship, its strange gadgets, and the endless lessons Marcus offered. Each day revealed new wonders, lights that floated in the air, machines that could fly without wings, and tools that could create anything from nothing. Yet, beyond the novelty, Lyra found herself learning something far more important: trust, patience, and the belief that her mind had value. Lyra's mornings often began with practice exercises Marcus had designed. He would place her before challenges small, then gradually larger, requiring careful observation, planning, and problem-solving. At first, she struggled, fumbling with alien devices or miscalculating results. But Marcus never scolded. Instead, he guided her gently, showing how mistakes were part of learning. One morning, Marcus presented her with a navigation challenge. "Lyra," he said, pointing to a holographic map of the nearby terrain, "imagine we need to reach the other side of this canyon without disturbing the local wildlife. You plan the route, and I'll follow your instructions." Lyra studied the map, her mind racing. The canyon had twisting paths, loose rocks, and hidden dangers. Most of all, she had to think like the creatures that lived there, predict their behavior, avoid traps, and find the safest passage. Her heart pounded, but she focused. After a few moments of silence, Lyra spoke. "We'll move along the left side at first, using the smaller ledges to avoid the main path. Then, when we reach the narrow passage, we'll cross carefully using the natural bridges. If a predator comes, we'll wait behind the rocks until it passes." Marcus nodded, impressed. "Good. Let's see how it works." Together, they executed her plan. Lyra's instructions were precise, and the route she chose avoided every hazard. Even the smallest creatures, hidden in the canyon, remained undisturbed. Marcus's eyes gleamed with admiration. "Lyra, that was perfect. You've got a natural talent for strategy." Lyra blinked, uncertain. "Strategy?" she repeated. In her city, strength and quick problem-solving had been praised, but planning, patience, and foresight had never been valued. She had never thought of her quiet observation as a strength. "Yes," Marcus said. You see patterns, predict outcomes, and adapt. That's far more valuable than raw strength alone. You can think several steps ahead. Humans call that intelligence in action. A small smile crept onto Lyra's face. For the first time, she felt her mind mattered. She began to practice even more, learning from Marcus and testing her own abilities. With each success, her confidence grew, though she remained humble. One afternoon, while exploring a rocky plateau, Lyra stumbled upon a narrow canyon with unusual markings. The symbols resembled those she had seen in the cave near her camp weeks before. Curious, she began to analyze the patterns, noting how they repeated and shifted. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "You've noticed these before, right?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes, I think they're a type of communication. Maybe an old language or instructions left by something." Marcus watched silently as Lyra worked, her fingers tracing the shapes. Her eyes narrowing in concentration. She began connecting the patterns, predicting what might come next, and testing her assumptions. Hours passed, and the human starship hummed quietly nearby, waiting. Finally, she stepped back. "I've done it," she whispered. "I think I understand." Marcus examined her work. "Lyra, this is incredible. You've deciphered a code that has confused even the most experienced scholars. Your mind. It's extraordinary." Lyra's heart soared, but she quickly looked down, unsure how to respond. Praise still felt strange, even when deserved. Marcus smiled. "Don't be shy. You should be proud. You've discovered something that no one else could." Lyra realized that this was the first time someone had seen her abilities clearly, not for show, not for public approval, but because they truly mattered. Her mind was her strength, and for the first time, she understood that strength came in many forms. Days passed, and Lyra's skills expanded. Marcus taught her about technology, strategy, and communication. She learned to operate small machines, predict outcomes in experiments, and even guide the human crew during training exercises. Each lesson revealed another layer of her potential. Yet, not everyone appreciated her growth. On the fringes of the human landing zone, a few alien scouts from her city observed her. They whispered among themselves, mocking her for associating with humans. "She's abandoned her people," one said. "She'll never be respected again." Lyra overheard them one day while gathering supplies. At first, old fears rose: fear of judgment, of ridicule, of being truly worthless. But then she remembered Marcus's words, "Worth is what you create, not what others say." Her heart lifted. She ignored the whispers and continued her work, focusing on learning and growth rather than approval. One evening, Marcus approached her with a new challenge. "Lyra," he said, "the human ship is preparing for a scouting mission. We need someone to analyze the terrain, predict possible dangers, and suggest the best route. I want you to lead this part." Lyra's eyes widened. "Lead me?" she stammered. "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "You've learned enough to guide us. I trust your judgment." Lyra hesitated. The fear of failure tugged at her, but a small spark inside her whispered, "You can do this. You have what it takes." Taking a deep breath, she nodded. I'll try." The next morning, Lyra stood before the human crew. A holographic map projected in front of her. She analyzed the terrain, noting areas of risk: steep cliffs, unstable rock formations, and potential predator paths. She created a detailed plan, giving clear instructions on movement, observation points, and emergency strategies. Marcus watched silently, proud. The humans followed Lyra's guidance, and her plan worked perfectly. Not a single crew member was injured, and they navigated the canyon efficiently. Her confidence grew with each step, each decision validated by the success of the mission afterward. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, you've done more than I expected. You have real talent, not just intelligence, but leadership. You can inspire and guide others. That's a rare gift." Lyra blushed but smiled. For the first time, she felt a sense of purpose. She was not merely surviving. She was contributing, creating, and shaping outcomes. Her life had meaning beyond the harsh judgments of her past. That night, Lyra sat outside the human ship, looking at the twin suns as they set. The sky was painted in colors she had never noticed before: deep purples, fiery oranges, and soft pinks blending together. She realized that the universe was far bigger than her city, far more varied than the narrow standards of strength and intelligence that had once defined her worth. She thought about her people, about the elders who had cast her aside. She did not feel anger or resentment. Instead, she felt determination. One day, she would show them that worth was more than muscle or public recognition. Worth was creativity, courage, and the ability to think beyond the obvious. As Lyra drifted to sleep, she dreamt of possibilities. She imagined navigating unknown planets, deciphering ancient codes, and leading others through challenges with skill and intelligence. The flame of hope in her heart grew stronger. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "I am not worthless. I have value, and I will prove it." For the first time, Lyra believed it. The calm days of learning and exploration came to a sudden end. Lyra and Marcus were on the human ship, analyzing satellite images of Zithra's surrounding regions. When an urgent alert flashed on the screen, "Rogue faction detected," Marcus said, his voice tense. "They are moving toward the outskirts where our landing zone is established. We need to prepare immediately." Lyra's heart pounded. She had never faced a real threat like this. The humans prepared their equipment quickly, but Marcus turned to her. "Lyra, I need your help. These aliens use tactics that are unlike anything humans have faced. You know Zithra better than anyone. Can you help us?" Lyra swallowed hard. Fear tried to grip her, but she forced it down. I'll do my best," she said. The rogue faction approached quickly, their ships casting shadows over the plains. They were hostile, demanding that the humans leave Zithra or face destruction. Marcus and the human crew moved to defend their position, but without knowledge of Zithra's terrain and the faction's unique tactics, they were at a disadvantage. Lyra studied the approaching aliens, noting their formation, movement, and the way they communicated. She quickly devised a plan. "We'll split into smaller groups," she instructed. "Some will lead them toward narrow passes where their numbers won't matter. Others will take high ground to provide support. I'll guide the path and signal when it's safe." Marcus nodded. "Good thinking. Everyone, follow Lyra's lead. Trust her instincts." The humans moved as Lyra directed. Her small frame darted from point to point, signaling when to move, when to hide, and when to act. The rogue aliens advanced, unaware of the traps and strategies she had devised. At one point, a group of hostile aliens tried to flank the humans from a rocky ridge. Lyra quickly signaled to a small team to block the path, using rocks and debris to create barriers. The humans followed her instructions perfectly, and the attackers were delayed, giving the crew a critical advantage. Marcus watched in amazement. "Lyra, this is incredible. You're predicting their every move." Lyra focused on the task, her mind sharp, analyzing patterns and anticipating outcomes. The rogue faction was aggressive, but they were not familiar with someone who thought like her, someone who could predict and adapt. As the battle continued, Lyra noticed a hidden canyon where the rogue faction might retreat or regroup. She quickly devised a trap. Using her knowledge of Zithra's terrain, she guided the humans to position themselves strategically. When the aliens tried to escape, they were funneled into a narrow passage where the humans could safely block their advance. The plan worked perfectly. The rogue faction, confused and trapped, had no choice but to retreat. Lyra's strategy had saved the human crew from serious harm. Marcus approached her after the encounter, his face full of pride. "Lyra, you did it. Your planning, your instincts, they saved everyone. You have real leadership abilities." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of relief and pride. For the first time, her talents were not just recognized, they had made a difference. She was not worthless. She had proven her value in a real, life-threatening situation. The rogue faction retreated beyond the horizon, leaving the humans to regroup. Marcus turned to Lyra. "You were calm under pressure. You didn't panic. You used your knowledge and your intelligence to guide us. That is the mark of someone truly capable." Lyra smiled faintly. I just thought about what I could do," she said softly. "I wanted to help, Marcus shook his head with a small laugh. Helping is important, but knowing how to act, knowing what to do, that's what made the difference. You've grown so much, Lyra. I'm proud of you, for the first time. Lyra felt a sense of accomplishment deeper than any she had experienced in her city. The elders had once deemed her worthless, judging her by their narrow standards. Now, she had faced a real challenge, led others, and made critical decisions. Her mind and courage had mattered. That evening, as the twin suns set, Lyra and Marcus stood on a cliff overlooking the plains. The horizon glowed with soft orange and purple light, and the wind whispered through the rocks. Lyra's thoughts drifted to her city, to the elders who had cast her aside, and to the peers who had mocked her. I wish they could see me now, she said quietly. I wish they could understand that strength isn't everything. That intelligence, courage, and creativity matter too. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. They might not see it now, but one day they will. And even if they don't, what matters is that you know your worth. You don't need anyone else's approval to be valuable. Lyra nodded. She realized that Marcus was right. Worth was not determined by judgment or public approval. It was measured by actions, choices, and courage. She had survived, adapted, and guided others through danger. She had proven to herself that she was capable of greatness. The following days were spent repairing equipment, analyzing the rogue faction's tactics, and planning for future exploration. Lyra continued to contribute, offering insights, predictions, and strategies that impressed even the most experienced human crew members. One day, Marcus presented her with a simulation exercise. Lyra, I want to test your strategic thinking further, he said. This is a controlled environment, but it will simulate a complex mission with multiple variables. Your goal is to guide the team safely through the scenario. Lyra studied the simulation. Holographic images of terrain, obstacles, and moving threats filled the room. She felt a spark of excitement mixed with nerves. This was another opportunity to prove herself not just to Marcus or the humans, but to herself. As the simulation began, Lyra analyzed every detail. She identified risks, plotted paths, and directed the team with confidence. Challenges arose, unexpected variables tested her, but she adapted quickly. Using creative thinking and careful observation, each decision she made was precise, deliberate, and effective. When the simulation ended, Marcus clapped his hands. Lyra, that was perfect. You handled every situation with intelligence and calmness. Your ability to think ahead and adapt under pressure is remarkable. Lyra felt a sense of pride she had never known. She had once believed herself to be worthless, cast aside for weakness and failure. Now, she was leading, teaching, and guiding others. Her mind, courage, and determination had proven their value in ways that strength alone never could. That night, as Lyra lay beneath the stars, she thought about the future. She imagined facing challenges on distant planets, decoding mysteries, and guiding others with wisdom and courage. She realized that she was no longer defined by her past failures, or by the narrow judgments of her people. She was more than that. She was capable, intelligent, and brave, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet, steady voice whispered, I am not worthless. I am strong in ways that matter. I can face anything. For the first time, Lyra felt truly ready for the universe.
The rogue faction had retreated and the human crew had repaired their equipment, but the events of the past weeks had changed everything. Lyra stood atop a rocky hill looking down at the plains she had once crossed alone. She remembered the days when she had felt weak, worthless, and invisible. Now she felt something entirely different: strength, confidence, and the quiet knowledge that she had value. Marcus approached, smiling. Lyra, you've done more than anyone could have expected. Not just the mission, not just the simulations, you've proven yourself in every way. I think it's time you return to your city. The elders need to see what they overlooked. Lyra's stomach tightened. Returning to the city meant facing the people who had mocked her, who had cast her aside as worthless. But she also felt determination. She had grown, she had learned, and she was no longer afraid of judgment. I'll go, she said slowly. But will they accept me? Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. They don't have to accept you right away. What matters is that you go with confidence. Show them who you really are. Lyra nodded and began the journey back to her city, traveling across the familiar plains that had once seemed so vast and frightening. Along the way, she thought about all she had learned: patience, observation, strategy, courage, and the value of helping others. She realized that her worth was not defined by her strength or by anyone else's opinion. It was defined by what she could do, how she could think, and how she could act. As she approached the city gates, whispers spread among the citizens.
Lyra, is that...
Her? She looks different. Why is she back? The elders themselves stepped forward, eyes narrow with curiosity and suspicion. Lyra, one elder said, his voice cold. You were cast aside. What brings you back? Lyra lifted her chin and spoke with calm confidence. I return not to seek approval, but to show what I can do. I have learned, I have grown, and I have contributed in ways that matter. I am not worthless, the crowd murmured. Some were shocked, some were skeptical, but they could not ignore her presence, the quiet strength in her voice and the courage in her eyes. Marcus stepped forward, his human presence drawing attention. Lyra guided our team through danger, he said. She planned, she observed, and she acted with intelligence and bravery. Without her, many lives would have been lost. Her worth is clear. The elders exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. The youngest among them, a scholar named Tiri, stepped forward. She deciphered ancient codes that have puzzled us for generations, Tiri said. She led others through dangerous terrain and saved lives, perhaps. Perhaps we were wrong to judge her only by physical strength. Lyra felt a rush of pride, but she remained humble. I only use the gifts I have, she said. Everyone has value in different ways. Strength alone does not define a person. Thought, courage, creativity, and care matter as much, perhaps more. The city was silent for a moment. Then one by one people began to nod, slowly recognizing the truth of her words. Those who had once mocked her now looked on with curiosity and a hint of respect. The elders, though reluctant, could not deny the evidence. Lyra had achieved what they had once considered impossible. Their decision to cast her aside was a mistake, and they finally acknowledged it. Lyra, the head elder said, his voice softer than before. You have shown great wisdom, courage, and leadership. We recognize your worth. Lyra nodded, a small smile on her lips. She did not gloat. She did not seek revenge. She had come to show that worth was not about punishment or approval. It was about action and heart. In the weeks that followed, Lyra became a symbol of change in the city. She began teaching younger citizens not just skills of strength, but lessons of observation, strategy, and empathy. Children listened to her stories of the plains, the challenges she had faced, and the lessons she had learned. Adults observed her with growing respect, seeing that different talents could bring value to the community. Marcus remained by her side, offering guidance but also learning from Lyra. Their partnership symbolized the new relationship between humans and the citizens of Zithera, a partnership built on respect, trust, and shared knowledge. Lyra also worked to strengthen relations between the city and the human explorers. Together they explored the nearby regions, uncovering ancient ruins, discovering new species, and sharing knowledge. The city learned that cooperation, innovation, and understanding could achieve far more than pride and isolation. One day, as Lyra and Marcus stood on a high balcony overlooking the city, a young alien approached her. Lyra, the child said timidly, I want to learn like you. Can you teach me? Lyra smiled, kneeling to meet the child's gaze. Of course, she said. Everyone has something special inside them. You just have to find it. As she taught, Lyra realized how far she had come. From a girl deemed worthless, cast aside and ignored, she had become a leader, a guide, and an inspiration. Her journey had not been easy, but it had been worth it. The twin suns set behind the city, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Lyra stood with Marcus, watching the horizon. The world was vast, full of unknown places, challenges, and wonders. And for the first time, Lyra felt ready to face all of it. Not because she had been deemed worthy by others, but because she had discovered her own worth. In the quiet of the evening, Lyra whispered to herself, I am more than I was told I could be. I am capable, I am strong, and I have value. Marcus smiled. And now the universe will see it too. Lyra looked out over the city she had once feared. Over the plains she had crossed alone and beyond, to the stars above. She knew her journey was only beginning. There were challenges to face, mysteries to uncover, and adventures to embark upon. But she was no longer the girl who had been cast aside. She was a leader, a thinker, a guide, and she had finally found her place in the universe. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet flame of determination burned brighter than ever. Lyra, once deemed worthless, had finally discovered the truth, that worth comes not from the judgment of others, but from courage, intelligence, and the heart to act. The city of Zithra would never forget her, and neither would she forget herself.